Yeah everyone, Austin here again with another Let's Play video. Today it's going to be Mega Man 4 for the Nintendo Entertainment System. A really great Mega Man game actually that you don't always hear people talking about, or at least not in a terribly positive light. This is one I actually grew up with. It was the second Mega Man game I ever personally owned, so obviously I'm a little biased when I talk about this game. But I think it still holds up really well. I did a recent run of this on Twitch, and every time I go back to it, I'm always impressed by how well it does hold up, particularly compared to some of the other later Mega Man games. It might not be to the same level as Mega Man 2 or 3, but I still think it's a very high quality game, especially for NES standards. It's just a fantastic playthrough. I'm really looking forward to going through this game again for you guys on stream. So yeah, I actually, this was a game I did a Let's Play several years ago. I actually ran through all 6 Mega Man games many years ago on my channel. I've since gotten a new recording set up, and I'm using the Retro USB AVS FPGA clone system right here, which gives you 720p, just razor sharp pixels. It looks fantastic, and you know, it's how I prefer to play my NES games these days. So I'm basically going through a lot of my old NES Let's Plays in particular, and doing re-records of them, and kind of taking a look at them and doing playthroughs on them from a more current perspective. So if you guys have you know, watched me play through these games in the past, and you're sick and tired of, you know, seeing some duplicate content, I apologize for that. If you're brand new to my channel, well, I think you're probably in for a treat. So yeah, Mega Man 4 has this sort of elongated intro. Mega Man 3 didn't really have any intro of any kind. You just title screen and then right into the game. So having this intro was actually kind of cool with Mega Man 4. It could be argued that some of the Mega Man series later on, some of the Mega Man games in the series later on, kind of took the story element a little too far. It's just kind of ridiculous. Yeah, but Mega Man 4 I think does it just right. It's, you know, it's a good balance. You've got story, but it's not overkill. It's not too in your face about it. So yeah. But yeah, before we actually jump into our first Robot Master here, what I'm going to do is give the shout out to my the usual shout out to my current Patreon backers. Man, I can't even speak cohesively today. What's new? But yeah, thank you guys for your continued support. I hope you guys continue to enjoy getting these videos a week early, as well as ad-free. We're also going to flash by the recent live stream Super Chatters. I do live streams on Friday night, so if you're bored on a Friday night, feel free to stop in and say hello. So we're going to actually kind of do things a little bit differently than I'm used to doing. Usually I'll do like Skullman or Dustman. Actually, you know what? I do almost everybody first, except Pharaoh Man and except Drill Man, typically. Drill Man's kind of tough without any Robot Master weaknesses or weapons. So we're going to go ahead and just do Drill Man first. I don't think I did that in my previous playthrough many years ago, so we'll just kind of see how this goes. The levels themselves in this game really aren't that bad, but a couple of the bosses can be pretty tricky. I'd say Drill Man is the toughest, especially without his weakness. His weakness is actually Dive Man, which is basically a little homing missile. So much like Mega Man 3, Mega Man 4 also has the slide maneuver, which is very, very handy. It's going to allow us to get through some of these levels a little bit faster than we normally would just by walking normally in some of the older Mega Man games. So we're going to be taking advantage of that quite a bit. I'm also going to be tanking my way through certain parts of this game to just to, you know, get through the sections a little bit faster, as well as, you know, picking up power-ups. One of the power-ups is actually an extra life that's coming up here. I'm gonna sort of, just intentionally take some damage to get this, just because, you know, make life a little bit easier. That jump is actually really, really tricky. So I can go ahead and just take some damage and then walk on the spikes. Spikes in Mega Man 4 kill you in one hit, just like most other Mega Man games. It's one of the long-lasting and very typical common tropes of Mega Man games. And actually, I can sort of jump over these guys. Oops, not that one. I jumped over the first one without taking a hit. There's an energy tank, and we've also got Rush Coil right from the beginning, just like in Mega Man 3. So we'll go ahead and get the energy tank. We don't really need it. By the end of the game, we're going to have like 9 energy tanks, just like in Mega Man 3. So something else that was introduced in this game and actually carried over to most Mega Man games after this, not all of them, but most of them, is the charged Mega Buster. And so basically what you do is you just hold down the fire button, and you'll notice that Mega Man starts blinking, and you'll hear a sound cue that goes along with it as well. And if you unleash it early, you'll do this larger shot right here. Doesn't really do any extra damage as far as I'm aware. But if you let it charge up all the way, you'll do the big Mega Buster shot, which actually will cut through multiple enemies depending on the amount of hit points they have. Jumping on those switches also makes these platforms appear, and we're at the boss fight now. So the big thing with Drill Man is that for about half the fight, he's underground, and as he's coming up and then going back underground, you can't do any damage to him. You have to wait until he's walking around. And so what I like to do is just kind of wait a few moments and then just dash. He always pops up wherever you are on the screen, so as long as you're dashing, or I should say sliding. Been playing a lot of Mega Man X lately, so I'm used to calling it dashing. One of the nice things about the charged Mega Buster in Mega Man 4 is that when you take a hit, it doesn't reset. Now in Mega Man 5 and 6, it does reset if you take a hit. And I felt that was kind of a step backwards for the games. It made some boss fights just go on much longer, unless you just happen to be playing perfectly, but in some of those games it was tough to, you know, play the bosses perfectly. Wow, that does a ton of damage when he comes up like that. I guess it makes sense since he's got a big-ass drill in the top of his head, but I wasn't expecting it to do, you know, a third of my health like that. So that was a situation where I could have used that energy tank, but, you know, I've got multiple lives left, so I've got 2 lives left. You know, we got that extra life early on, so it's not really a big deal. Yeah, I really like the charged Mega Buster in Mega Man 4 in particular. It's just this really long shot. It does a good chunk of damage, but it doesn't do too much damage. It's balanced actually pretty well in this game. It's not like Mega Man 5 where it's just a huge shot that covers a wide vertical space. So in this one, you actually have to be somewhat accurate with it. It's not just a gimme like it is in Part 5. Also, the strength of it is balanced pretty well. And I shouldn't say the strength of it is balanced so much as it is the enemies have the right amount of health for it to not be broken. Like, absolutely broken. I can't believe we did that without taking a hit. He didn't really chase after me once with his drills. The thing about this fight is that he could be kind of random. He'll pop up and just start chasing you down with his drills. And it's very difficult to jump over them without either running into the drill or running into him. It's just very, very tough, which is why I wanted to try him first, because I think he's probably the toughest fight without his weakness. So we got some pretty cool graphics here. You know, Mega Man 4, really nice looking game overall. It's just a fantastic looking game for the system. Alright, so it doesn't really matter what order we go in next, so we'll go ahead and do Pharaoh Man. He's probably the second hardest boss of all the main 8 Robot Masters. At least if you're just doing Buster only. His weakness is Bright Man. Bright Man kind of has an effect like Flash Man on Mega Man 2, where it basically just freezes everything on the screen. The difference is that you can actually shoot when everything's frozen. And so with Pharaoh Man, you can basically just freeze him in place and just do a ton of damage by shooting him over and over again as he's frozen. And so what we're gonna do here is actually get the balloon power up. And we got Rush Jet too, which makes this actually a little bit easier. Oops, wrong way, Rush. So there's 2 hidden items in this game. One is the balloon power up, which basically acts as like the item number 1 from Mega Man 2. Very, very useful. The second is the claw, or the wire. It's actually the wire. It's not called the claw. But it allows you to basically connect to a ceiling and just sort of just fly up to the ceiling and hang there. It's kind of a cool little power-up. Not really necessary in most parts of the game, or really any part of the game for that matter, but it is cool nonetheless. And I got lucky there. So in the Mega Man games, you really want to take advantage of your invincibility. So when you take a hit in this game, you start to blink, and you've got several what they call invincibility frames, where you're invincible for a few moments. Now, in Mega Man 1 on the NES, it doesn't work out too well. If you're invincible and you hit a spike, you'll still die. It doesn't matter. So your invincibility frames in that game are only so good. But in this game, and pretty much every other subsequent Mega Man game on the NES, you know, when you take a hit, you can touch spikes. You won't die when your invincibility frames are in action. Or activated, I should say. Alright, Pharaoh Man. What's cool about getting the balloon power-up is that it basically, you know, puts you about halfway through the level. So the level actually doesn't take that long if you get the balloon power-up. And the big thing about Pharaoh Man here is that he does this. He likes to corner you. Kind of like that. And we're just going to try to jump over him. It's not so bad, actually, if, you know, he's down on the ground completely, or if he's up on that middle platform. Ooh, that was close. Alright, so that's 2 Robot Masters down. What's nice about Mega Man 4 is that it's not like Mega Man 3 where you go through all 8 Robot Masters and then you've got to go through 4 of the levels again, and they're longer and you got to fight 2 boss fights each. You just go straight into Dr. Cossack's castle. And then after you do a couple levels there, you go to Dr. Wily's castle, and then it's basically the end of the game. So we'll do Bright Man next. There's going to be actually a secret room in Bright Man's stage. We're just going to skip that, just to save a couple minutes of time. But you'll find yourself, I think, an energy tank and maybe an extra life or something like that if you take that route. It's good to use the Rush Jet or Rush Coil on that route. So if you ever decide to take it, and I'll point it out once we get to it, yeah, it's good to use that. So these guys right here, if you shoot them, you actually turn the lights out. So what I'm going to do is not shoot them. And that is a really tight jump there. That's actually one of the tightest jumps in the game. And we got these totem pole looking guys. They basically just shoot straight out at you. And these grasshopper robots. These are pretty cool. I've always liked this mechanic. I like a lot of these stages too. A lot of the stages in Mega Man 4, they do have some nice little, you know, background details. Like you can see the tubing with the, you know, the electricity going through them, which is pretty cool. And then there's like some little, you know, like rows of lights in the background that just fade in and out, which is nice. You guys, if you've you know been following me for a while, well, for one, this is the secret area, not really secret area, but alternate area I was talking about. But we're just not going to do that just to save a few moments. People that have followed me for a long time have heard me complain about some of the later Mega Man games on the platform, Mega Man 5 in particular, where the backgrounds were just very flat. There wasn't a whole lot going on. They were drawn well, but they didn't have that sort of extra elements of detail, extra layers of detail. Like the electrical pulses going through those tubes, or the you know, the little lights in the background that fade in and fade out. These things in the background that fade in and fade out. You didn't have a lot of that in Mega Man 5, and some other Mega Man games as well. So Mega Man 4, it's definitely, I'd say it was on the NES, it was the last like really, really high quality Mega Man game. And then the other two, Mega Man 5 and Mega Man X6, are fine games. I do enjoy both of them, but I feel like they were both downgrades compared to 2, 3, and 4 in particular. I never count Part 1 because it was it was the pioneer in the series, and I can't fault it too much for what it did. It was the first, where they were laying the groundwork for the rest of the franchise, and it's special in its own right. So Bright Man can freeze you, and if he touches you or shoots you, he actually does a lot of damage. And I was just frozen there. I couldn't do anything because he froze me. Yeah, one of the aesthetic details in the Mega Man series that always gave the games part of their feeling and kind of like sucked you into, you know, the level designs and whatnot. It was little details, like flashing backgrounds, animating backgrounds, and things like that. And, you know, like Dustman here, you even have a little bit of that on this level. It's not as, there's not as much of it as there is on some other stages or in some other Mega Man games, but there's still motion in the background. So you got these big chainsaw-looking things, and you know there's motion, and it definitely keeps the backgrounds looking interesting. And that just helps you just kind of like, you know, get into it a little bit better than just fully static backgrounds. So we got some rising platforms here. And you can actually just jump over on them as they come up. They still register as like the full platforms, even when they're not completely put together yet. And we're just gonna slide. And we took a hit, but we got some health back. And this little guy right here will give us some power-ups, and I'm gonna try something. I don't think this works. Nope, it does. Hey, look at that. So you can basically just, if you don't collect the power-up, you can go back off screen and come back and see what else he gives you. Sometimes he'll give you an extra life or an energy tank or something like that. Oh well, not a big deal. For me, Mega Man 4 is not a terribly difficult game, but again, like I said, I'm a little biased because I have a little bit of a skewed perspective because it is a Mega Man game I owned as a kid, and as such, I've put a lot of time into it over the years, especially as a kid. But you know, as you know, one of those games I did own when I was younger, I do have a tendency of going back to it as well. And that was close. So you can get crushed here, so you gotta watch out for that. But that's also why the slide ability is really good in this game, because you can get out of some really tight situations that you might not have been able to get out of in, you know, some of the older Mega Man games. See, there's some more motion in the background. You can see the fire burning. It's really nice. I like stuff like that. And Dustman's pretty easy. Sometimes he can jump at you, but when he does his dust ability like this, you just jump straight up, basically. So kind of like that. And as you can see, when he's doing his sucking ability, you can't do any damage to him. Alright. And at this point, it doesn't really matter what order I take these guys. I'm not going to use the weaknesses against them. I'm just going to do Buster only, like I always do. Alright, so there's going to be an energy tank coming up here as well. And these skull guys, you want to just do a fully charged attack that'll kill them instantly. Otherwise, you can't actually kill them with your regular buster shot. You have to do a full charge shot on them in order to destroy them. By the way, these shield guys right here, they have to be hit from behind. If you hit them from the front, your shots just get reflected. And you can slide under some of them, just to make life a little bit easier. And we just got something. We either got an extra life or an energy tank. I'm not sure. If we come to the right, actually, I kind of just want to skip this, but we'll go ahead and do it. Why not? So we can actually use our rush coil here, or the balloon, to get this energy tank. And I'm gonna actually just come up here like this, because it'll be easier to get back. Just like so. You're not hitting a ceiling from the top. Notice how you go over the top of the ceiling, or over the top of the screen. You know, I was playing Mega Man X6 quite a bit recently, and you know, that's on the PlayStation and PC. And on many areas of the game, you can't actually you can't go over the top of the screen. And so you'll hit just thin air and you'll die. I don't know what I'm talking about. You won't die, but you know, it'll be like you hit the ceiling and you'll just fall down and hit an enemy. Usually it's on boss fights and things like that, where you try to go over the top of the screen and the game doesn't let you. It's kind of an odd design choice to me, because in the old Mega Man games they always let you go over the top of the screen, as long as there was no ceiling there. Alright, so Skullman's got kind of an interesting pattern here. So he makes his skulls appear, or his skull shield, and then they disappear and you want to just jump over him. Just like so. And his shot actually goes pretty much wherever you are on the screen. So if you're kind of high up in the air, he'll shoot up. Kind of like so. So you can sort of bait his projectiles a certain way, or in a certain direction. Alright, so Toadman is one of the, probably one of the easier bosses in the game. He's got a pretty ridiculous pattern where you can just almost stun lock him in a way, just even with your regular buster shot. He's really a piece of cake when you know what to do. So one thing that's also cool in this level is that there's a rain effect in play, and it actually pushes you back a little bit. So you gotta watch out for that. Your charge buster oh, I knew that was gonna happen. I should have just waited. I jumped thinking I could just barely skim past that umbrella, like maybe just have it fly just right over the back of my head. But yeah, that was a mistake. Sometimes I try to get slick like that, where I get risky, but it's fun taking chances like that and having some really close encounters or close calls. It's one of the things that makes kind of trying to play retro games somewhat skillfully satisfying. Those close calls is what's satisfying. You know, kind of playing the game as it wasn't really intended. Like, the game wants you to wait, but being able to play fast and skim by things just barely is, it's a little bit of a rush. A little bit of a rush. And we got a mini-boss here. Very much like the dogs or dogs in Mega Man 2 or the cats in Mega Man 3. And there are a couple mini-bosses like this throughout the course of the game. And we have to fight that guy twice, actually. The next time it's not going to be quite as easy because there's going to be some endless pits. There we go. So on the left-hand and right-hand side of the screen, we can fall down to our deaths. We have to watch out for that. Gotta watch out for these guys. They come up and they'll definitely hit you if you let them. And this is actually a really good time to... Oh, I don't know. We can either use, did we get Rush Marine yet? I don't think we did, no. So just like in Mega Man 3, Rush Marine does exist in this game. And, with Rush Marine, you can, basically drive through water without a problem. Kinda like a submarine. Alright, so there's a couple things with Toadman here. For one, it's good to just use your charge shot. But if you just shoot normally, he'll jump. So you can just kind of do this back and forth, like so. Every time you shoot, he jumps. So you can basically just control him into a loop like this. And he never does anything different. It's kind of like Crash Man on Mega Man 2, where every time you fire, he jumps. Now, if you just charge, he does this water attack. But you can also just sort of get him into a cycle where you can unleash your charge shot right before he unleashes his rain attack. The rain attack does a lot of damage, so you know there is a threat, but for the most part he's a cakewalk. Just because you can just control the fight 100%. One of the things I think some of the later Mega Man games excelled at was having a better sense of randomization, like obvious, discernible patterns that you had to learn, but they didn't come out at the same, rhythm or frequency, or the same rate every time you played them. Drill Man is one of those examples where he's just kind of random. So he can get up on the ground and then just start shooting drills at you. And on some fights, he'll just do that for half the fight, whereas other fights, he's just spending most of his time underground, and so forth. And yeah, I do feel like some of the later, the Mega Man X series in particular, I think did a better job of, randomizing patterns and things like that. I mean, some of the earlier Mega Man games did a better job of that as well. I mean, just the original Mega Man, the boss patterns in that game just feel very random, which is always satisfying to me, because it makes the fights kind of exciting. Even Mega Man 2. Mega Man 2 has, a bunch of fights where the bosses don't feel like they're just set in stone, and they're gonna do the exact same thing every time you fight them. Or if they do the exact same every time you fight them, you're not really at a significant advantage, because they shoot a lot of projectiles, like Bubble Man or something like that. We're just gonna slide under that guy. But yeah, some of the later Mega Man games, though, on NES, definitely have issues sometimes with being able to control boss battles a little too well. Like Toadman. Alright, so right here... Oh, not right here. Never mind. Right here, we're gonna fall down. This is where we get our wire ability. So you got some classic Mega Man 2 style falling action with some spikes on the sides. And it's actually funny, I was streaming this on Twitch, and a couple of people chimed in saying that it took them a long time to figure out where the wire ability was. They didn't ever think to just try to fall down there. And it just kind of got me thinking. It's kind of interesting how, in certain cases, you're willing to just try different things as a kid, whereas an adult, you try to play very carefully. So, when I first played Mega Man 4, I fell down here the first time. On my first playthrough, I got the wire ability right away. And, you know, I had no hesitation, I just did it. It wasn't an accident, I intentionally fell down. As an adult, I probably would have done exactly what some other people would have done, and just avoided it completely, not realized that's where the wire ability is. It's just kind of fun to think about. Actually, we're gonna go ahead and get that. Probably don't really need it, but Dive Man can be a little tricky, because he does have homing missiles, and homing missiles are the bane of my existence in most games I play. But the good thing is, if you got your charge shot, it cuts right through the homing missiles, which is nice. And that's that. Pretty easy fight, actually, once you, you know, get the whole missile thing down and know when to slide. And so I guess that leaves us with Ring Man, probably one of the goofier looking enemies in the game. But he's actually kind of a tricky fight if you don't know his pattern either. He's very fast. And he does have an interesting level in terms of platforming and things like that. And you're gonna actually start on top here, so you can actually just... Oops! If you get it just right, you can jump straight up that ladder. And I messed up again. And so these platforms, when you jump on them, you can see how they disappear to the right. Now there's going to be another set of platforms like that later on in the level where they disappear from right to left. I guess technically those are going right to left as well, never mind. That one's going left to right. I thought they were all the same, but apparently not. I just learned something new. Alright, so you want to shoot this guy, but you gotta shoot his pillar first in order to bring him down. You can also use a boss sub-weapon to do some damage without having to destroy his, the pillars. So these guys right there, those little razor blades, you have to use Ring Man's weapon on them to kill them, which we might do later on in the game, because we're going to see them again. And these mini-bosses are probably some of the most obnoxious enemies in the game. Not the hippo guy here, but, you know, the guy shrouded in rings. You can just shoot his homing missiles as they come out. And we can go up that ladder. There's going to be Flip Top again, the little guy that gives us power-ups, but I don't really have a need for it. So here we go. These things come in from the right to left. And boss time. Nope, not yet. Never mind. Got a little excited there. Another mini boss. These are actually kind of tough to avoid without taking a hit. The timing, it's got to be impeccable. So we're actually not doing too bad. 35 minutes into the video, and, you know, we're already past the 8 Robot Masters, which means, you know, we probably got another half an hour after that. What we're going to do is just come over here, jump. And jump again like that. You just kind of want to do this. And watch out for his animation. If you see him start to wind up, you definitely want to jump. Oops. And that's that. Yeah, I predict we probably have about another half an hour to go. We have to go through Dr. Cossack's castle and then Dr. Wily's castle. Alright, so if you missed either the balloon or the wire, you can actually go back to levels in this game. So you can play through Pharaoh Man stage again and Dive Man stage again to get those. You definitely want to have at least the balloon. The balloon makes life a lot easier on certain parts. I mean, it's not actually necessary, because you do have Rush Coil, you do have Rush Jet. In a way, Mega Man 4 kind of went overboard with giving you special abilities because you didn't really need them. Also, fun little trick here, there's an extra life over here to the left. And there it is. I think it's either an extra life or an energy tank, I don't know. Because you can't actually see it, it's hidden behind the snow. And it's actually kind of cool, there are ice physics here, which is actually pretty interesting. In the snow, you actually walk much slower, as you saw in the snow, which was also a nice little touch. I think this is actually the first time in a Mega Man game where you actually walk slower in snow. Yeah, pretty neat. Now, previous Mega Man games also had ice physics, but yeah, this is the first one to make you walk slow in snow. Kind of cool. We use our charge ability here to try to kill 2 enemies at once. I didn't mention that there's a lot of pits in this game that have these guys pop up. You need to know what pits those are, because these guys will hit you more often than not. You don't want to be trying to jump over a pit and then just slam into them, because if you touch them over a pit, you will fall to your death. And that was definitely a mistake I made a lot as a kid when I played this game. And we're gonna go ahead and just use the balloon power up here. Again, you can treat it like the #1 ability in Mega Man 2. And you can even, you know, do things like this, where you can just partially skip a section completely. Oops, I messed that up completely. So, we'll take the normal way this time. Oh, really? Come on. Ugh. Alright, let's try this again. We'll kind of do it like Mega Man 2 style. Oh, look at that. There we go. Alright, let's switch back to our main weapon here. We got 5 energy tanks as well. Mashing skills work really well against guys like that. Alright, this is our first boss. Not a very difficult boss, but he kind of drills through the ground. So you've got to watch out for that. If he drills through the same spot twice, you can fall to your death. Also, he shoots out these projectiles. But just use your charge attack. The Charge Buster is fantastic in this game. And, you know, I've heard people say that they don't like the charge ability. They say it slows down the game. But I don't agree, at least not in Mega Man 4. Because if you do things right, you can just really tear through those bosses just really quickly. You know, it's all about timing. If you can't get the timing down, you know, that's one thing. But if you get the timing down, then I don't think you're going to experience many holdups, at least in Mega Man 4. The thing about Mega Man 4, again, unlike 5 and 6, is if you take a hit while you're charging, you don't stop charging. In Mega Man 5 or 6, if you take a hit, you gotta charge all over again, and that's what slows it down. You don't experience that in this game. Now, if I wanted to, I could switch over to the balloon, because we're on, like, you know, the first of the final 2 castles. Your weapon power-up does actually carry over from level to level. I should say your weapon energy carries over from level to level. In other parts of the game, it refills after every stage, but in this, these last 2 castles, they do not refill. Oops. Fortunately, these things don't kill you in one hit, but this is a situation right here where if you wanted to, you can use the balloon power-up. That's where the balloon power-up is really handy. One of the things about Rush Jet in this game is they kind of nerfed it a little bit compared to Mega Man 3. I don't want to say nerfed, but, you know, it's not as useful as it was in Mega Man 3. It's kind of like the number 2 ability in Mega Man 2, where you're forced to just go straight. Although in this game, at least you can, you know, you can aim rush up and down, which is nice when you're on top of him. And some power-ups there. We don't really need those. We're just gonna skip them to save some time. But just for fun, I will get this. And I like to use the wire ability here. So just like that. The positioning on this is a little tight. It doesn't look like it, but it actually is. And this boss is kind of annoying. It's probably my least favorite boss in the game. This is a boss that does actually just kind of slow down things. You need to slide under him like that. Or you could be really slick and jump inside of him, slide, then jump back out. But that's just too risky. It's not worth doing. You can get 2 charge shots off. And then you just gotta do it again and again and again. So when it comes in slow like this, that's when you know that you're gonna be able to take some pot shots at him. Alright, again. Alright, one more. And that's it. Alright, so this is actually, I think the only auto-scrolling level in the entire game. Kind of a nice change of pace, actually. I'm not usually the biggest fan of auto-scrolling levels, but, you know, in some cases I don't mind them, and this is one of those cases where it's not really a big deal to me. I'm also not really a big fan of shielded enemies in Mega Man games. But these guys aren't quite as bad as what you get in, say, Mega Man 5 or Mega Man X6. Some of the later Mega Man games have a tendency of incorporating a lot of shielded enemies, which, you know, if there's one way to slow down an action game like this, it's incorporate shielded enemies. Now, you've always had some shielded enemies in Mega Man 1 and 2 and so forth, but they were kind of sparse, you know? They weren't littered all over the place, but in Mega Man 5 in particular, and I'm gonna, you know, again, Mega Man X6 is another example, they're all over the place, which really slows down the pace of the game. So sometimes I like to just try to jump over these guys as is, but you can use the Ringman power-up, like I mentioned earlier, to destroy them. You'll notice that I played Mega Buster only for most of the game. And it's how I'm comfortable playing Mega Man 4. It is fun experimenting with the, you know, the boss weapons and whatnot, and some of the boss weapons are actually pretty good in this game. I'd say, Skullman aside, it's actually a decent arsenal. Things are very powerful. Skullman is just completely useless, though. I know there's some benefits to it, but there's not as much benefit to using it as it is using other boss sub-weapons. So we're gonna just... Actually, should have switched over to one of my items to pick that up, but I wasn't thinking. Alright, so there's going to be a trick here as well, where we can use our balloon power-up. If we jump on it just like that, and slide immediately, we can get that energy tank. Now, you can actually mess up there and get crushed by the balloon. So, in the Mega Man games, remember, you can get crushed. And you can actually get crushed there by the balloon. If you don't do that just right. So this is a boss with basically two phases. He's got one guy that just sits on the top like that, and this next guy just walks, you know, in a clockwise direction. Pretty easy for the most part. Just gotta watch out not to fall into those spikes. Alright, this next section, or this next level I should say, is relatively long, and it's got, you know, two different routes you can take as well, partway through the stage. Gonna skip that energy tank. Oops! I was expecting him to do a high jump. And as you can see, the slide ability in this game is actually quite nice. So we're gonna go ahead and just use Rush Coil here, and we're gonna jump up, and we're gonna go blast through this thing with Drillman's ability. So if you want to blast through these barriers, you just use Drillman. Alright, boss time. We're gonna switch back over. 7 energy tanks. So this is where a lot of the Mega Man games usually start becoming more difficult. But on the other hand, they can also start to become pretty easy, because you can just sort of play really sloppy and just use lots of energy tanks to get your way through. It's one of the things that's actually great about the Mega Man series, is that mechanic allows the games to be enjoyed by people of all skill levels. So high-level players can choose to not use energy tanks, try to go through the game, you know, without using them. So basically, just having your 1 health bar, and then you die, and you got to go back to a checkpoint. But less advanced or less skilled players can rely on the energy tanks. You know, if you got 7 energy tanks on the final boss, well, just use them all. You'll get through the final boss. It's one of the appealing things about the series. Just like stealing boss weapons is part of the appeal of the series. You don't have to use them. If you want to make the game more challenging on yourself, you can just use your buster. But if you're not that great at the game, you can use the boss sub-weapons, use you know, the ones that are weak against certain bosses, and just destroy them easier and faster than you would, you know, using your buster only. And you know, when I hear certain people, you know, occasionally talk about, you know, certain Mega Man games being too easy, I think to myself, like, well, what are you doing to challenge yourself? You know, are you trying to play the game Buster only? Are you trying to do it without energy tanks? Or why don't you be wild? Why don't you just try to go through the entire game with just Skullman's weapon? That'd be harder than Buster only. So that's just like part of the appeal of the Mega Man series. Is part of the flexibility is a big part of the appeal. Alright, so we got a water section right here. And for this part, we can actually just get some rush jet action again. And we're gonna actually do the same here. Look at that. I've never actually done it like that before. That's interesting. The other day when I streamed this, I used the balloon ability to get my way over there right away. And it was kind of interesting, actually, doing that. And then I used the wire to get up to the top. Alright, back to another boss. And so basically this guy only has a limited time to be hit. And he drops these little me-tool guys. The little helmet guys. And he's kind of tough to avoid. So we're gonna go ahead and just use an energy tank. I've got plenty. Why not? Why not? And that's that. Alright, so Wily Stage 1 down. One of the things I'm not a huge fan of in this game, but it doesn't bother me that much because it's not that often, is there are quite a few pastel colors pastel-style colors used over the course of the game. It's not nearly as bad as Mega Man 5, but you can kind of start to see where they started to go in that direction. They really went hard with it in Mega Man 5. And subsequently a little bit in Mega Man 6 as well. But for the most part, Mega Man 4 has got a pretty good color palette, but there are a couple instances where you can start seeing the future of the NES Mega Man series come to fruition. And we're gonna go ahead and use our balloon. And there's old flip top there. Energy tank, sure, why not? Don't really need it, but I'll take it. that left ladder, as you can see, you just get stuck. So... Extra life, okay. How many lives are we at? 3? Okay. We've died a couple times. And we're gonna go ahead and just use the wire. The one nice thing about having these extra abilities, even though they're kind of unnecessary, is that they probably make speedrunning the game pretty fun, because you just have a lot of different options at your disposal. There's a lot of different things you can experiment with. And that's where, you know, having flexibility can really come into play and really enhance the longevity of a game. You know, that flexibility is not going to appeal to everyone, like casual players that just go through it, well, casually, but if you're like a speedrunner or someone like that, having that, the ability to experiment like that is a big part of the speedrun appeal. For me, it's not so much about speedrunning, because I'm not a speedrunner, but I do love experimenting with things and just trying new things in a lot of these old games that I play, just to see what's possible. You know, that's also a part of the fun for me. Alright. Just mowing through this game. Yeah, we probably still have another 10 or 15 minutes left. I'd say probably 15 minutes at least. Because we do have to fight all 8 Robot Masters again. And then after this level, we actually go to another level, very much like Mega Man 2, where they tell you, oh, this is the final stage, but it's not actually the final stage. It's a gimmick that's used multiple times in the classic Mega Man series. And very much like Mega Man 2, Dr. Wily in his final form does have a very specific weakness, which is Pharaoh Man. So you need to make sure that you've got your Pharaoh Man ability preferably maxed out by the time you get to the end. Alright, so speaking of Pharaoh Man, I'm gonna go ahead and use Bright Man's weapon. And as you can see, it's just enough to use, or it's just enough to take away all of his health. And we've got Ring Man. Alright, what is Ring Man's weakness? I do not remember, because I never use a weakness against him. It's not Drill Man. Look at how much damage he does, too. It's crazy. Okay, we don't have a Metal Man situation where it's use his weakness, or use his weapon against him as his weakness. Alright, let's, I don't know, I'm gonna risk it. Nope, not Skull Man. Surprised, actually. And it's not Dive Man. Is it Toad Man? It might be Toad Man. It is not Toad Man. I tried everything. Huh. Interesting. Okay. Well, I guess just Buster then. That's interesting. Alright, let's see what works against Dustman. One of the nice things about, playing through these games is that you don't really need a walkthrough to figure out, like, what works best against them. Against certain enemies and bosses and things like that. You've got the power to just experiment. That's right, it's Ringman. That does a lot of damage, actually. And there we go. Ringman's actually a pretty nice weapon. It comes out really fast, and it seems to do a lot of damage to a lot of enemies. And I want to say Toadman he's weak from the drills. Yeah, okay. Here we go. And Dive Man is Dust Man. I feel like you're still better off just using your Buster, though, because you have more control over things like, getting rid of those homing missiles. That's an example where the boss weakness isn't as useful as you'd probably like it to be. And I want to say it might be Pharaoh Man here, but I don't know. We'll see. No, it's not. Unless it has to be charged. One of the interesting things about Pharaoh Man is that you can charge it. It uses a lot of ammo, though. Seems like that might actually be it, unless... Let's try Skullman on Skullman. Nope. Wow, Ringman works. Interesting. Huh. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but it works when he's shielded. That's very interesting. I had no idea. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and use an E-Tank. Because we have so many. Alright, Brightman. And Brightman, it's Toadman's weapon. Although, unfortunately, I don't have enough weapon energy. Alright, last one. Drillman. And Drillman, it's Dive Man's weapon. Alright, and on to Wily's first form. We're going to switch back to our Buster. And here we go. Not a horribly difficult fight, especially this first form here, or this first phase. So we're going to go ahead and just use our charge Mega Buster shot. Now you don't want to get too close, because he'll do a lot of damage if you just touch him. And for this part, you gotta hit that little circular object in the middle. So you need to be fully charged in order to hit it. We'll use another energy tank, just so we don't have to do it all over again. And there we go. Alright, so again, the weakness for Wily's final form is Pharaoh Man's ability. And there's gonna be some snakes that just drop out from the ceiling. And we're gonna switch over to Pharaoh Man. We don't have max ammo, but I think we'll be fine. This is kind of a pain of a boss fight. You have to wait for Wily to appear. And he only appears for a split second. And he does a ton of damage if you touch him. We're going to be using a bunch of our energy tanks here just because I'm lazy right now. Alright, energy tank time. I'm gonna play it safe, because if I run out of ammo here, the best bet is just to get a game over. Because grinding out for health on those snakes, or weapon energy, not really health, just takes forever. I tried it the other day on stream, and I was just like, yeah, it's just faster to get a game over. Because when you get a game over and you continue, you get all your weapon energy back. And that's it! We just beat Mega Man 4! For the umpteenth time on this channel. But it's okay. I love going back to this game. I love going back to all the Mega Mans on the NES. And having my my AVS as well as my newer capture hardware, it makes it worth going back to these games and re-recording them for you guys. It's actually kind of funny when you get to Wily's castle. It looks like it's up in the clouds, but it's not until you beat the game that you realize it's just the way they did the portrait leading up to it. It makes you think it's in the clouds, but it's actually not. So yeah, that's Mega Man 4, guys. It's you know, it's got a little bit of an ending. It's nice, kind of reminiscent of the original Mega Man ending for the NES. But yeah, this is I think this is a great Mega Man game. I always have fun going back to this game. Always enjoy showing it off for you guys. But Yeah, I'm trying to think of other things to talk about. There's not really anything else to mention here. Yeah, so, you know, like I mentioned earlier in the video, I'm doing a lot of re-recordings of old Let's Plays I've already recorded before. And so I've already done Mega Man 1 and Mega Man 3 once again, so you guys can definitely expect me to do 2, 5, and 6 sometime in the future. Probably later this year, I'll do a couple more, or maybe even sometime very soon. I'll try to tackle part 2. I'm also working on some other Mega Man games as well. I'm trying to work on beating Mega Man 8 for the first time. I've never finished that game before. I also want to go back and do Mega Man 7. I've only beaten that game once. That was on the Mega Man Anniversary Collection for Xbox. When that came out, actually. That was like 2004 or 2005. That was a long time ago. But yeah, you guys will definitely see some more Mega Man action on this channel, even some games I've already done Let's Plays on. You guys will see some re-records, as you've been seeing with some of these other games recently. But yeah, I'll keep you guys posted on that. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do dedicated Let's Plays on, say, Mega Man 8 or Mega Man 7 or something like that, but they will get the live stream treatment eventually. So again, I do live streams on Friday nights as of this recording, and so that's where you're going to find me playing those games if I do manage to complete them. Yeah, and that'll be fun. I'm also trying to tackle some of the other X games as well. I'd like to do X8. I am going to do X7, which I'm not really looking forward to, but I am going to do it. And I'm going to do X2 as well. I'm going to start practicing that one sometime soon. Taking a little bit of a break from the X series at the moment, though, because I ran through X3, X4, X5, and X6 over the last month, and so I'm a little X'd out at the moment. But I'm going to take a few week break, then I'll start trying to tackle X2, and then you guys will probably see a live stream of that. Or maybe even a dedicated Let's Play, depending on how difficult it is. I haven't beaten that one in, you know, a good 6 or 7 years either, so... But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Presented by Capcom. I want to say thanks for watching, as always. If you're brand new to my channel, consider subscribing. I've got many, many Let's Plays on this channel, and many more to come. To everyone out there, if you like this video, do me a favor and give it a thumbs up, or if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. Thanks to everyone that's already subbed. Hope you guys continue to enjoy these videos. And I'm stuttering like a madman right now. I think I've stuttered a lot in this video. It's pretty bad, actually. I gotta stop recording these videos after work. But yeah, oh my god, whatever. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video. And until then, take it easy.